We are joined, as we are each month, by Jacksonville Mayor Donna Deegan. Good morning, Mayor.
Good morning, Ann.
Mayor Deegan joins the program each month to discuss the headlines and to take your calls and questions. You can reach us at 904-549-2937. You can also email firstcoastconnect@wjct.org or reach out on social media. Mayor, I do want to get to the budget, which really is kind of the big headline this week, but I just wanted to take a minute to ask you about the killing of Charlie Kirk yesterday. Obviously, a shocking and really awful incident. Today's also 9/11. I just kind of wondering what you're thinking these days in such a kind of acrimonious world.
Well, we were talking earlier this morning. I am very down about it. I'm really. I just. I don't know how much worse things can get when we're doing these things to each other. I mean, it's got to stop. The violence has to stop. It's just got to stop. And I know people, look at the things that I say, and I'm always talking about love over fear. But here's, at the end of the day, if we don't start seeing each other's humanity, I don't care if we agree or disagree with people. We've got to start seeing each other's humanity and at the very least recognize that violence is only going to take us down a bad path. So, I mean, I put out a statement yesterday. That happened. We had another school shooting yesterday where a bunch of kids were shot. And it just feels like it becomes fuel for political hatred on both sides. And somebody's got to step back from the brink on this. It is, I get up every morning and I watch the sunrise. And in addition to the fact that today is 9/11 and I always reflect on that horrible tragedy, I am just frankly just left feeling like people, I'm not trying to be preachy. I swear I'm not. We've got to start having more love for each other as just fellow humans, and not do these violent things to each other. I mean, I'm heartbroken that this has happened. It's horrible that this is where we are. And to see, people going back and forth politically at each other on this, they're your fault, it's your fault. It's all of us have got to step back from this political violence and recognize that this can only lead to worse things. Nothing is going to get better unless we can step back from hate. I mean, that's it.
It does seem like it would be nice to just sort of turn the volume down after something happens, to not necessarily have it instantly become a whole other toxic.
That's the problem with social media, Ann. I mean, everybody just gets everybody else all frothed up and upset, and and everyone feels justified in their feelings. At the end of the day, it hurts all of us. And anybody who would be celebrating this or any violence needs to look into their hearts and say, wait a minute, what is happening here?
Mhm.
What is happening to me? What is happening to us? I'm sorry. I know that's a long tirade, but when I came in here this morning, I was honestly just thinking, I don't even know what's going to come out of my mouth today, because I'm just so saddened by the whole thing. I don't know what to say about it anymore. We got to keep going, but it's the message of love over fear is more important than ever. And people can think whatever they want to think about that. This whole zero-sum political conversation, political violence has to just end on both sides. Has to end.
Yeah.
All sides. I shouldn't even say both sides. All sides.
Yeah, all sides is true. So I will move on now to kind of
told you.
Yeah. I mean, so it's been a difficult week for city dialogue, I will say. And that began Tuesday. I mean, it didn't begin, but it manifested Tuesday at a very contentious city council meeting where we had both innumerable votes, a lot of personal attacks, I think it's fair to say. On all sides.
Yeah.
We had a walkout by 4 city council members who left in protest. So it was very, very hot. And it ended with a tentative vote on the millage rate that you prefer for your budget. It ended with your budget bill passing. But again, this is not the final vote.
Not at all.
So we're now looking to the 23rd.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think is going to happen? Let's start with the millage rate, because that is one element of a very contentious budget discussion. The other is sort of all of these DEI restrictions.
Well, they're both extraordinarily contentious,
Mm-hmm.
and both damaging in their own ways. I have said repeatedly, and will repeat as many times as anyone will listen to me, and I do in these town halls. I have never raised taxes since I have been in this office. I have lived within the current millage rate, which is already by far the lowest millage rate of any major city in the state of Florida. And we have a growing city, which means we have growing needs, infrastructure needs of health and well-being, blight, you name it. I mean, this city is growing, and unless we're just going to throw up our hands and say, well, it's growing, but we're just going to keep cutting our ability to deal with that, then that is what I would call fiscally irresponsible. So I'm going to continue to say we can live with the millage rate that we have. We start cutting the millage rate that would give the average person back about $1.50 a month, but would cost the city millions in services that we could provide, is a not wise move and extraordinarily short-sighted at the very least, and in my mind, simply a political move.
You've been able to win some converts to that position, some very powerful groups, including the Civic Council, police and fire unions. Yep. And I guess, first of all, I'm curious what those conversations have been like, the support that they've offered, and whether or why so far those groups' opposition to rolling back the millage rate has not necessarily swayed the council members who say that they respect both of those organizations.
Well, I can tell you this. There has been a great deal of private pressure from those organizations for some time. I was very grateful to see both of them had the courage to come out and publicly say, this is damaging to us. This will not only damage public safety, but will damage other cities' quality of life issues that we also care about. It takes all of us to speak out and say, look, I understand why it's popular to say you want to lower the millage rate. It's going to, first of all, half of our people are renters, and they won't get anything back from this. The other half, if you're a very wealthy person and you own $1 million house, you're going to get more money back, but still not a crazy amount of money. Our homestead has increased over the years, homestead exemption, and then also it's capped. The increases are capped at 3%. So people already have safeguards, but it's inspiring to me to see our police and fire and our civic council come out and say, we have to be honest and say, while this may poll well, it's really not going to help you, and it's not going to help our city. And I hope that at the end of the day, as we get to the 23rd, that council people will take that into consideration.
Somebody would have to change their vote.
Yeah.
Do you have any sense as to, I mean, people seem really dug in on this issue. Well, do you see anybody that might change their vote and be persuaded to your side?
Look, you just never know. But we have to continue to try. I said this, last week when people said this seems like a done deal on the first vote. I think you heard some people say, "Oh, we've already got 10 votes. We're going to pass it out, tonight." Well, that didn't happen, did it? Didn't happen.
10 votes for
the to pass it out on the first night. On the night that we just what night did we just finish? What did we just pass? Tuesday night.
Tuesday, but you're saying votes for the rollback or votes for keeping the millage rate as is?
I think the prediction was that millage reduction was going to go in on Tuesday.
Okay.
It didn't. And so I have to hope that that's because some people are starting to think twice about, is this really the smart thing to do? Look, I have done, since I have come into this office, I have worked very hard to have a positive relationship with this council. And I've told anybody that asks me about it, it always is going to go in a wave, up and down. And whenever we're in budget season, it's going to be contentious. And that's just how it is. We all have to stake out the positions that we think are best for the city. But this is one of those things that really, I think people are very close to evenly divided on. I'm going to continue to press my case. I suspect they will too, and we'll see how it all turns out on the 23rd. But I'm hopeful that when we have people like police and fire and the civic council, which is made of of all kinds of folks. And frankly, I will tell you this, Ann, here's the other thing. I've had 2 town halls so far. I've got another one tonight. We always get accused of bringing people to these council meetings to talk. We haven't done that. This has all been grassroots. Every person that has spoken at our city hall, at our public town hall meetings so far, has either been for this or has talked about something else. We have had nobody that has come out and said, "I'm for this millage reduction." Everybody has said, "Keep my dollar. I want the services." I think it's a very widespread feeling in this city that we've seen this movie before. We've seen what happens when we take this short-sighted look at shopping, and then we get to some sort of a fiscal cliff, and we can't pick up our own garbage, or we can't pay for police and fire, or we can't do the things that we need to do. I don't want to go backwards. I want to go forward. That's the message that I'm giving to people. We have finally got momentum in this city. Let's keep going forward. I'm not talking about raising taxes. We aren't raising taxes. We're simply leaving them where they are.
If you're just joining us, I'm talking to Jacksonville Mayor Donna Deegan. She is joining us for our monthly Ask the Mayor segment, and you're welcome to join our conversation. You can call us at 904-549-2937 or email firstcoastconnect@wjct.org. You can also reach out on Facebook, Instagram, or X at FCC On Air. So I do want to take a listen into some of that meeting because, as we said, part of the discussion is on millage rate. Should it be reduced? Should it be maintained? The other is whether a layer of additional requirements should be placed on the budget, which would prevent spending on specifically DEI in matters, abortion and
immigration.
So Rory Diamond is the architect of that particular amendment. Let's listen to what he had to say at that meeting.
It literally says we are not going to be racist. We're not going to spend money on treating people different based on their race, their gender, or who they go home to. That's what it says. It says we will not be racist. Instead, I get called racist. I didn't throw out any names. I didn't hear any substantive arguments against this. Give me one good reason why we should spend $1 because we like one race or one gender more than another. I don't think we should.
That is the biggest bunch of gaslighting I've ever heard. I mean, it is so clear that we have federal and state laws that already cover everything. We don't spend money. We said this when the immigration bill that he put out last time was vetoed and upheld. We said, first of all, this isn't a local issue, shouldn't happen, and is already in every contract we have that we can't spend money with you if you are not legal. I mean, it's a straw man argument. I mean, would Roy pretend that the civil rights movement never happened and that moved us forward to where everybody was seen as equal? I mean, it is his. What I would argue back to him is exactly what I argued when his initial bill was presented, and that is, you tell me who this bill benefits. Who does it benefit? You saw with all the emotion on that dais that night that a lot of people were very offended and upset and worried, and it would put a lot of nonprofits in a bad position. What if somebody calls the suicide hotline? Is the person on the other side of that suicide hotline that we fund supposed to say, "Before I can answer your question, are you illegal?" I mean, this puts so many people in a precarious situation when frankly there are federal and state laws that already cover everything he's talking about here. It doesn't make any sense to do this. It doesn't benefit anybody. It makes people afraid. It makes people vulnerable in terms of our nonprofit community. And it is all simply a match to light a flame. That is all it is. And I've said this before, but I don't know what has happened to this council person that I knew years ago that seemed so reasonable. But everything he does now seems to be focused towards stoking culture wars that we really don't need to have as part of our city government. I think you heard Councilman Johnson say, look, we're not supposed to be doing this type of thing in our budget. If he feels so convicted that this stuff needs to go, then present it as regular legislation. It doesn't need to go into our budget. We don't spend $1 on the things he's talking about anyway.
Well, he did present it as regular legislation.
And guess what happened to it? What happened to it, Ann?
It failed.
It failed. And that's why he doesn't want to do it that way. He's a bully. And I'm really, really tired of how he puts all of us through so much. We're trying to bring this city together, and he seems to be doing everything to try to divide it. And I am exhausted with it, frankly. And I know a lot of people are. But look, it's his right to say and do what he wants to do. And I just hope that that at some point he sees that this is not helpful.
We should say we have invited Councilmember Rory Diamond on the program. We haven't heard back from him on that request. We've got a call from Susan in Mandarin. Good morning, Susan. Go ahead.
Yes, I saw a video of the expansion of the South Creek Riverwalk and all these really cool parks, and I was wondering if that was going to be open to the public during the sip and stroll on the 18th, because I'd really like to walk down there. It looks really cool, and I really love it that you're trying to make our city beautiful with all the parks.
Thanks, Susan.
Well, thank you, Susan. If she's talking about the North Bank, that's not going to be open till the end. The Riverfront Plaza won't be open till the end of the year. There's part of the South Bank.
I think she was talking about by the school board building, that area.
Yeah. I should know this, Susan, but I'm not sure what area exactly we're talking about, whether it'll be open.
If I had to, well, we can bring her back in, but I think that what she's talking about is that area where you've been building all those new parks past the school board, where that new development is going to be, used to be called Healthy Town.
Used to be called Healthy Town. Now it's called River's Edge or something like that. I can't remember, but I don't know how far down that is open is what I'm trying to say. So I wish I could, I should know that, and I don't know it off the top of my head. We'll find out.
All right. Very good. We've got a message from Lynella on Facebook. She says, more of our city council members need to meet the people in the community who have the highest needs. Too many rub shoulders with wealthy donors and constituents, but not actual people who struggle and are most impacted by these bad votes. Our seniors have been priced out of housing by massive investor takeovers of rental inventory. You know, I know that one thing that your administration has been looking at is if for instance, these DEI and abortion and immigration restrictions were laid upon the budget, whether legally that is something that would withstand scrutiny. Because as Councilmember Ken Amaro pointed out, you know, there's nothing in the budget. There's no line item for abortion. There's no line item for immigration spending. And so to kind of put a layer on top of a financial document, I think the question is whether legally that passes muster.
Yeah, I think we're still asking all those questions. We've sent a list of questions to the general counsel to give us a response to what are the options there. Is it permissible? And if it is permissible, what are my options in terms of what I could do with a line item or whatever? I'm not sure yet. But Ken is perfectly right. I know he used the word irrelevant. I can't remember the three words he used, but I thought he stated the case brilliantly. It's just it is simply intended to be a polarizing element for us. That is it. And you heard on that dais how much it offended so many people on that council. What is the purpose? When there's no budgetary line item tied to any of those things, what is the purpose of including that beyond the fact that you're too much of a coward to try to bring them through the legislative process because you know they won't withstand muster? That's really, at the end of the day, I'm going to have my way. You know, you heard him at the end of that council meeting, but it is absolutely astounding to me how much energy he puts into things that really don't have anything to do with the quality of life and well-being of the people at the beaches that he serves.
We've got a call from Don, who lives at the beaches. Good morning, Don. Go ahead.
Good morning. I want to thank you very much for bringing Diamond into the spotlight and exposing him. He's a totally irresponsible representative from the beaches. I have called him several times. I've sent him emails. No responses whatsoever. He's grandstanding. He has designs on moving up in the Republican Party. That is all he is about. Anytime he can get in front of that camera, he does it. That's all there is to it. Thank you for letting me comment.
Don, thanks for your call. We
Thank you,
also
Don.
have a call from Nancy in Atlantic Beach. Good morning, Nancy. Go ahead.
Good morning, Ann and Mayor. I'm a little concerned about something that I heard Donna say, but I'll go first to Mr. Diamond. Many people who voted for him, at least people that I talked to, are well aware that what he's trying to do is pave his way to Tallahassee. So I don't think that's going to happen with him. So the longer he keeps moving like this, I think he's losing rather than gaining votes. My second comment is how the mayor has to fight against the council president, who actually was on television one night, and it was a while ago, saying, "You think that's going to happen? No, Donna, that's not going to happen." He said it 3 times. No, Donna. And I thought, how old are you, and whoever in the Republican Party put you in this position? And now I heard Donna say that she's, I don't know whether she said exhausted or something. And that's what I was afraid. She's not going to. I know that. But I was afraid that it was going to get her down from her usual ebullient endeavors when she's taking care of the city.
Well,
so that's
Nancy,
my comment, and I'll go ahead.
Listen, don't worry about that. We all have our moments, right? And I think that this whole shooting mess and everything else, all of it can get you to the point where you become. When I say I'm exhausted with it, I mean I'm irritated by it. I am so focused on moving this city forward, and I am frankly just tired of folks who spend more time trying to buoy their political prospects than work for the people they were elected to work for. I'm not saying that I don't have. That we don't have some true ideological differences. I'm sure we do. And I'm not saying they don't love their city. What I'm saying is focus, folks. We've got a lot of needs in this city, and we need to move it forward, and we have been moving it forward. So when you hear me say I'm exhausted with it, that's my way of saying I am sick and tired of it. I'm not going anywhere. So don't worry about that.
Okay. And thank God you're not. All right. Work on those people who you know will listen to you instead of the others who are fighting for their own political great gains.
Well, I'm really glad. I'm glad to hear you bring that up, because that was a very bipartisan coalition of folks that stopped those efforts the other night. Very bipartisan. Yes. You had several Republicans who joined us in that. So I don't. You know me. I don't ever divide anything into party in this city. I say once we're elected, we're all Team Jacksonville, and it is gratifying to me to see that we have people on that council that have said, you know what, we're gonna behave like that. We're gonna be Team Jacksonville, and that's all I've ever asked of anybody over there. We can disagree all day long. Let's just work on the things that we can work on together and move the city forward.
All right, we've got a call from Stephanie in Murray Hill. Good morning, Stephanie. Go ahead.
Good morning. I just wanted to call in and express my support for Mayor Deegan. I'm going to age both of us and say I've been watching you on the news and as a personality in Jacksonville my whole life. I'm 41 years old, born and raised in Jacksonville, and I love the fact that we have journalists like yourself and Ken Amaro involved in local politics, because you guys really know the city, and you've known the city and embroiled yourself in different levels and aspects and all levels of our society that we have here. And I feel like that gives you a level of information that most more politically minded people don't have. And I also just want to say thank you so much for standing with certain city council members. I know you said you don't like to divide things by party, but there are clearly elements that want to support an imperial executive, but also at the same time want to take your power as mayor away. And we, as Jacksonvillians, voted for you because we saw real change and real opportunity. And it's unfortunate that the city council thinks that they should just undermine that. And also, I look forward to voting for you again. Thank you so much for what you've done. Not a fan of the stadium deal, but all in all, I really know that you want the best for our city and all the people in it. And I just wanted to give you my support.
Thank you so much. That's very kind.
Thanks for the call, Stephanie. We have a message from Jim on Facebook saying increasing property value doesn't happen in a vacuum. The city needs to invest in the place where your house is. A city run on the cheap devalues property and revenue. Also, Mike on Facebook saying the Northside Coalition has called for a fulfilled promises dashboard to track our progress on meeting the broken infrastructure promises of consolidation. You said you liked the idea previously. Has there been any progress on the idea of this dashboard?
You know what? I'll check on it. I know that I took that back and said I really like that idea because we actually we do keep track of that. What are we doing? Like the fact that we've taken the projects in the capital improvement plan in some of those areas and moved them to the top of the list. There are things that we have done specifically to try to make sure that we are keeping those promises. And I told the folks that do the dashboards that I would like to start looking at that. I know we're developing several more dashboards. I'm not sure where we are on that one, but I promise you I'll check on it.
Stephanie mentioned voting for you again. And I'm curious because you're the former office holder, Mayor Lenny Curry, has been very vocal, particularly on this tax issue, but he's sort of, back in the frame of Jacksonville city politics.
Yeah, he's a lobbyist now, so he does have an opportunity to push certain things for the lobbying firm that he works for, but he does spend a lot of time in our business these days, for sure.
Yeah, and we've also invited him to come on the program, so hopefully he'll take us up on that. He said he's not running for mayor, but I'm just curious what your feeling is about him taking such a vocal role in the current conversation.
Well, look, I think that Mayor Curry and I fundamentally have a different view of when I always talk about being Team Jacksonville. I think he is one of those folks, as are a lot of people, that considers the party to be extraordinarily important, and he was a party boss when he came into office. I think in many ways he has not lost that mentality, and a lot of people feel that way. But I would simply say that the other former living mayors that I continue to have a constant and open dialogue with, who've been very supportive of me and my administration, two of which are Republicans.
And you're referring to Mayor John Payton and Mayor John
Delaney.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, Mayor Payton has gone a long way to try to he's signed that civic council letter, saying that we shouldn't lower the millage rate. I would say they work on solutions with me. Mayor Curry seems to, from the day that I have come into office, been working to try to draw a sharp contrast with this administration, and that is his right. He can do that if he wants to. I would simply say it's not always helpful, but it's as I said before, it's entirely up to him how he wants to spend his time and energy.
I want to ask you about something that I thought was really interesting this week, and it's the discussion of incentives for sort of an atypical incentives project, specifically a surf park on the south side of Jacksonville, kind of very much in the suburban landscape of E-Town.
Yeah.
What's the consideration? What's the thought process there behind thinking that some city money might incentivize and help this company, get this project done?
Yeah, if I'm remembering correctly, I will say that I think that's a rev grant they're asking for, right? So we're really just talking about
which is
taxes that are returned,
Mm-hmm.
that basically aren't paid for a period of time to make a project successful.
Yeah, this would be a 75% tax rebate for 10 years.
Yeah, so we do those quite often. I think where we've started to become more concerned is all this money that if cash incentives become a problem. But I think this sort of thing for something that could really be quite an attraction for our area, I think is something that we've shown some support for, and I think it's going to go before council in a few weeks. But it sounds very interesting and like it could be a big tourist draw.
I mean, it does sound like it would be interesting. It would be the first one of these surf parks. It's kind of a wave generating park in Florida. It would be one of the first in the country. And, the people who are building it say it would create, 100 jobs or something like that. But it is not in the typical template that we see, which is downtown development or targeted industries that are usually, kind of finance or manufacturing. So it might require some additional powers of persuasion. I don't know, to have something like this get approved.
Yeah. Well, look, I think we're looking for ways to attract people to want to visit our city, in addition to the fact that we want our young people to stay. And I just think it's a very unique opportunity to have something that other people might want to come and take advantage of. So I think it's something we need to look at. Obviously, a lot of my focus has been on the areas that have been disinvested and in our downtown, but it doesn't mean that we don't want to do whatever we can to increase economic viability in all of Jacksonville.
All right. Well, Mayor Deegan, thanks for coming on. Appreciate you talking about some difficult subjects, but and it's always good to have you.
Thanks, Ann. It feels like every time I come here lately, something crazy has happened, but that's the world we live in, I guess. But thanks for having me.
It is. All right.